Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. If you have been a subscriber to my channel for any length of time, if you're not, smash that subscribe button, please. Then you're probably going to see in your feed different videos from different people that are kind of around the same subject matter. This Lord of the Rings, this Amazon TV series, Second Age Lord of the Rings TV show that they're bringing out in September, because a Vanity Fair article dropped today and some very interesting information inside of it, and also some very interesting pictures. But of course, putting all of that just to one side, there was very much an underlying narrative that if you criticize any of this, you're a racist and you're a misogynist. Because that's where we are now in the hyperbolic age. That's what we should call it. Never mind the second age where this is set. We should call this the hyperbolic age, where nuance doesn't have any meaning anymore. Or these people certainly don't want to listen to nuance, because nuance invariably tears down a lot of their arguments. Now, I am not a scholar of the Lord of the Rings literature. For people like that, I turn to Gary from Nerdrotic. I turn to Just Some Guy to listen to their extensive knowledge on the source material. But I do have an underlying, a little bit of knowledge about this. So it was very interesting, without going too much into it. It was interesting to kind of see how they did turn Galadriel into a warrior queen instead of what she had been written as. Why? You could only imagine because they wanted strong women in the show. Now, does that make me a misogynist? Of course it doesn't make me a misogynist. It just set me down this pathway of really just trying to pull at the threads that this article was leaving behind. Because it starts off, and I think it actually starts off in a very balanced manner, and I think it does pose an interesting quandary. I'll just read this first paragraph out to you. Galadriel's world is a raging sea, far from the wise, ethereal, elven queen that Kate Blanchett brought to Peter Jackson's acclaimed films. The Galadriel played by Morfydd Clark in Amazon's upcoming Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, is thousands of years younger, as angry and brash as she is clever, and certain that evil is looming closer than anyone realizes. So in essence, it's a different character completely. By episode 2, her warnings set her adrift literally and figuratively until she's struggling for survival on a raft in the storm-swept sundering seas alongside a mortal castaway named Halbrand, Charles Vickers, who is a new character introduced to the show. Galadriel is fighting for the future. Halbrand is running from the past. Oh my god, how cliche does that sound, but never mind. Their entwined destinies are just two of the stories woven together for a TV series that, if it works, could be a global phenomenon. If it falls short, it could become a cautionary tale for anyone who, to quote J R R Tolkien, delves too greedily and too deep. Now, I found that first paragraph to be very interesting indeed, because I think the author of this themselves is potentially skeptical about this show. I'm not trying to paint them as somebody who is nefarious or anything like that. I just think by their own verbiage, by their own wordings, at least sees both sides to this. Yes, if this is a success, let's say on the level of Game of Thrones, then it will be a phenomenon. because that's what Game of Thrones was before it all fell to pieces. But if it fails, then this being a cautionary tale. Now, with Game of Thrones, I haven't read the books. I just read the TV show. But when you're dealing with fantasy universes, it doesn't matter that they're fantasy, in as much as it doesn't matter that there might be races on their worlds that we don't have, elves, etc. And it doesn't matter that there might be magic that people can cast, which we can't, unless you're David Copperfield. But these fantasy worlds still have to have very strong and stringent rules. Why? Because the fantasy element of them takes us up in the clouds. Whereas if we're to believe and relate to what's going on with the struggles of the people, then we need to be tethered to the world. We still need to be aware of the wonder of that magic. Now, when you do something as earnest as Game of Thrones was, gritty, dark, but you saw the plight of regular people and you saw the incredible supernatural at their fullest. White Walkers, shadow assassins, dragons, all of that sort of thing. But you still had the plight of people living in King's Landing, Dawn, etc. And the fate that befell a lot of them, whether it be through war, whether it be through religion, etc. Things that we can relate to. And the reason also why these worlds have these strict and stringent laws is so we can relate. We can just relate to a sort of period in time that was long ago that never came into fruition on our world, for example. Now, of course, when you do something in a fantasy element, it tends to be set in what we would deem the past, where technology hasn't risen to the heights that it is here. People in Lord of the Rings don't go back to their houses and turn on their television sets. No. Now, these are very simple times with simple technology, and it's those simple times and that simple technology that allows the wondrous things, the magic, the mystery, to seem even more wow. But they try and set these fantasy films, again, doesn't have to just be Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, etc., etc. They try and set them in periods of time that we would relate to today. And it tends to be a medieval time. And for a lot of it, they tend to set a lot of them in sort of like a European time. And so they base their rules around what European middle-aged world would be like. And the reason why I'm going deep into this, of course, is because when you have a fantasy setting that introduces people of different ethnicities, whether they be black, Asian, etc., etc., if it doesn't fit with the rules of that universe that have been established, and Tolkien established them very much so, then it takes you out of it. Why does it take you out of it? Because you know that the people who are running the show are inserting their own identity politics into it, as opposed to respecting the actual law. And why does it take somebody like me out of it? Does it take me out of it because I'm like, oh my God, black people? This might come as a surprise to you, but I see black people very often in a modern day society. But when I see the casting here, do I think, oh, get those black people out of there? No, I'm thinking to myself, the showrunners, they couldn't help but insert their modern day politics into the fantasy universe. It's why it's one of the main reasons I can't get into the Witcher TV show. And I've said this on stream many times, so apologies if you've heard this. But in one of the very first scenes, in the very first season of The Witcher, in the very first episode, the Witcher's just killed the beast for their contract. And then they're being taken around this village by this girl who's talking about how she's bigger and better, she's destined for greatness. She's a woman and she can do what she wants. And then they take her into an inn, which has a nice, diverse range of people sat down there. And I'm thinking to myself, when they turn to the Witcher, go, oh, we don't like your sort here, Witcher. I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't make sense. How can you live in a backward village in medieval Poland, but you respect your women as equals, and you have people of diverse colors in your inn, drinking your ale, eating your food, sleeping in your beds, and then when the Witcher comes in, oh, we don't like your sort here. No sirree, we respect our women and our peoples of color, but we don't like your sort here, Witcher. It becomes farcical. Farcical. And if this period, if this second age was set in Africa, and then there was a load of Asian people and white people, I'd be saying to myself, what are they doing in Africa? You know, Africa, because of course it's a fantasy world, but it's still held by those rules. It would take me out. They've been inserted because the showrunners wanted their modern day politics into it. I recently watched Tarzan. I think it was filmed in 2015. Has Samuel L. Jackson in it. Had what's she called? Harley Quinn. It'll come to me later. And it had some dude playing Tarzan. And it starts off, because he's, you know, Lord of Greystoke or whatever. It starts off there. And then he has to go back to Africa. He's going back to Africa where it all began for him. And we go back to Africa and they meet up with the African tribes. And they're all black. Of course they are. Because that's how it would be in that time period. So was I like, oh, where's my representation in these black tribes? I don't see my Asian women. I don't see my white males for diversity's sake. No, it's setting it how it should be. And when it sets it how it should be, it feels authentic and you feel as if you can lose yourself in this world for however long the movie or TV show goes on for. It's about immersion. The rules make and allow immersion to happen. When you start fucking with that, when you start entering your own identity politics into it, it breaks the immersion. Because as Gary from Nerdrotic said on Friday Night Tights, which is absolute right, when are they going to do the genocide of all these people leading into the third age? Are you going to do that, Amazon? When's the genocide show going to happen? Where all of these diverse people that you've brought in for your own modern day sensibility politics, when are they all going to get wiped out? So when the third age comes, it is as it is because it's meant to be set. in a middle-aged Europe. This isn't racism. And with Galadriel, it isn't misogyny. Misogyny is the hatred of all women, which is so stupid. These people have to rely on hyperbolic language because they try to scare you away from actually pulling on those threads that I mentioned earlier, from actually criticizing what they're doing. Because you are in essence saying, we are above the source material. We are above Tolkien. Tolkien was about unity. So we're going to take that language of unity and turn it into identity politics. No. I haven't got anything against these actors and actresses. I ain't got anything against them whatsoever. But when you look at Game of Thrones, they had very strict rules about which types of people will wear. Because that made sense. But this is trying desperately to take pre-established work. And you have to understand that they only have the rights, by the way, to 150 pages of material. That's it. And this is a show that they're trying to make 5 seasons long. A show, by the way, which has already eaten up at least $600 million. You are taking that little scrap that you've got and you're saying, we're going to modernize it. We're going to add our own identity politics into it. And if you don't like it, tough titty. If you don't like it, you're a racist. If you don't like it, you're a misogynist. Yada, yada, yada. Boring. Heard it all before. You just want to try and make yourself immune to criticism, which isn't going to happen. Because I don't see this, and I don't see... This is a wonderful, diverse world of Tolkien. I see this and I see the showrunners who wrote a poxy, shitty-ass Star Trek movie who got the go-ahead from the thumbs up from Jar Jar Abrahams, the destroyer of franchises, are saying that they're above Tolkien. Where is the hubris really? Huh? Where does the hubris truly lie? I think I know. So there we go, folks. This looks like it's going to be a mitigated disaster because the showrunners can't see past their own politics and they're tackling one of the most beloved franchises of all time that has stood the test of time for 80 odd years. But hey, we're the misogynists. We're the racists. We're the bigots. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do get a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and YouTube for live streaming. Links are in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.